Welcome to Steward Leaders, a podcast for leaders who understand that our leadership is not about us. I'm Eric Alexander. In these conversations, we explore what it means to lead as stewards, living our leadership for something bigger than ourselves. Listeners, thanks for joining us for today's conversation. And Sam Silverstein, so grateful you carved out time to do this. These folks are going to really enjoy getting to hear from you.
It's a pleasure to be here today, Eric.
Thanks for making time. Let me tell the group a little bit about you, and I'm going to refer to my notes here, make sure I don't leave anything out. Sam's the founder and CEO of the Accountability Institute, topic he's really passionate about. We'll be talking some about that. We'll be talking a lot about that here in a minute. He's also a speaker, speaks all over the world. He's a writer, he's a colleague, he's a friend. We got acquainted back when he was working on one of his early books about a bank that I worked for that had a strong and unique culture. And he put together this book called Non-Negotiable about the culture of Happy State Bank. And that's when Sam and I got acquainted. And then most recently, he and his daughter, Allison, came out with Be Astonishing. And so I got it when it came out. Finished it shortly thereafter. We'll talk a little bit about that along the way, but Sam, thank you for your passion about these topics.
Oh, absolutely. You know, when you really feel something in your heart, you have to share, and that's just a great place to be.
And that's book number 12, right?
14.
14. Okay, I lost track. I knew it was at least a dozen, so there are a few more out there. Sam is passionate about this topic, and it shows in his writing, it shows in his speaking, it shows in the conversations he and I've had along the day. And what I wanted to get him to talk about first is accountability. What is accountability? And then I'll ask some follow-up questions about that. I love how you define it.
Well, I define accountability as keeping your commitments to people. That's all that it is. It's keeping your commitments to people. You're responsible for things, you're accountable to people. So responsibility is a tactical issue. It's getting your job done. That's not accountability. Accountability exists between human beings. And so when people are involved, relationships are involved. When relationships are good, then accountability is high. Because quite frankly, as you can imagine, no one's going to be accountable to someone that they don't like. And so whether we're talking individually or inside of organizations that like you and I deal with all the time, I know that if they're struggling with accountability, they're struggling with relationships. And so organizations that are only focused on the tactical side of business, they're going to miss the boat. Organizations that nail the tactics and nail the relationships, they're going to see a much better bottom line because accountability is going to be high. And so are all the other important metrics that we look at in a business.
And it's challenging. It's super important, but it's challenging. Talk about some of those challenges. Before you do that, though, I love that focus on people. When I heard how you articulated it about the commitments we make to people, that really resonates with me. But go ahead.
Eric, let's break that down a little bit because the word commitment is kind of confusing sometimes. You need to know that I define that as a commitment is no matter what. It's absolute, period. Now, there's tactical commitments and relational commitments. So a tactical commitment would be, I'll get you the sales report by Friday at noon. Tactical commitments are spoken, they're agreed upon, and they're transactional. So if you said, well, Sam, I really have a meeting at 1 o'clock, any chance I could get that in the morning so I could be prepared? Eric, you know what? I'll just get it to you end of day on Thursday. Will that work? Yes. Spoken, agreed upon, it's transactional. Relational commitments are unspoken. They're taken on by the leader, and they contribute to a relationship. And so it's the relational commitments that leaders take on, either in their personal life, their family, their community, or in their organizations. Those are the ones taken on. You don't have to tell someone you're going to stand by them when all hell breaks loose. All you have to do is stand by them and they'll know it. And when you do that and you take on those relational commitments, then you contribute to a relationship. When the relationship is in place, well, then why would I ever want to let you down, Eric? We have a relationship. And besides, I know you'd never want to let me down.
And that power of not wanting to let somebody down is really, really strong. I've experienced that.
Yeah, that's totally different than the old adage, I'm going to hold you accountable. Because when a leader says, I'm going to hold you accountable, that's like you're trying to manipulate someone to do more for you. That's not what accountability is. Um, that's dominance, that's control. Holding someone accountable is literally like putting a gun to their head. As leaders, when we take on these relational commitments, we create an environment because we know that we are accountable to the people we lead and we're accountable for, and that's different. Our people feel that and they feel the commitment that we have to them. And that's what inspires them to be their best and choose to be accountable in
So
return.
talk a little more about that distinction between accountable to and accountable for.
Well, when you're accountable to someone, they have the ability to impact your life beyond a surface level. So, if I reported to you, you could you hired me, you could fire me, you might be the one signing my check. You're going to impact my life beyond a surface level. I'm accountable to you. I'm also accountable to the clients because you know what? They could take their business and go someplace else. So they could impact my life beyond a surface level. Um, Growing up as a child, I was accountable to my parents. Now, accountable for someone, when you're accountable for them, you have the ability to impact their life beyond a surface level. So, I'm not accountable for you. I'm accountable to you. I report to you. But you're accountable to me, and you're also accountable for me because you have the ability to impact my life beyond a surface level. As a leader, you're supposed to be ensuring that I am positioned for success. You are responsible to make sure that I am in a safe environment, both physically as well as emotionally safe. Um, Growing up, I mentioned I was accountable to my parents. I didn't put food on the table. I didn't pay the mortgage. I didn't pay for the electricity. But as time went by, when my mother was in a senior living and we're managing her health care and we're making sure there's food in the refrigerator and I'm managing her assets, I'm now accountable for her. And that becomes a stewardship relationship. And when a leader realizes as a leader that we are stewards of the success and the safety, we're the stewards of the people that we lead. If we accept that as a leader, that changes the way we see our people. It changes the way we commit to our people. It changes the way we connect with our people. And ultimately, it changes the results that we're going to get.
That's powerful. We'll talk more about the stewardship piece. How did you know I wanted to go there? Did it have anything to do with what I'm calling this series, Steward Leaders? There's clearly a
No, but
connection.
we're on the same wavelength, Eric. We're
We
like
are.
symbiotic.
Could be. So I want to come back to that again, but two things you've said up to this point. One was you emphasized a couple times having effect on or touching my life in more than a surface level. We're in interactions all the time where we kind of glancing blows off of or just kind of bump into in the workplace and beyond. But why did you phrase that the way you did? And you emphasized it a couple times, beyond the surface level.
Well, because we see people, we interact with people all the time. Um, Walking down the street, somebody walks the other way. How's it going? I do a lot of running, walking, exercise. I'm out in the park. I might be circling the park counterclockwise. Someone is circling it clockwise. Sometimes people have their head down, but I usually say hi as I go by. Well, there's no relationship there. It's we're just two human beings passing, and you can be friendly and whatnot. But in a family, in a community, in a church, a synagogue, in the office place, the relationship is more complex. There's more going on. We're formally connected. One of us is impacting the other in beyond a surface level, in a more meaningful level. And that's going to lay the groundwork for whether or not there's accountability in play. And, we talk about the leader and the person reporting to the leader in that relationship, but it could be two coworkers that are side by side. Because let's say you and I are in sales and we both have the exact same position, same responsibility. You have a different sales territory than me. Well, I could look at this as a competitive relationship, or I could look at it as, well, how do we help each other? How can I be of service to you? And you could be thinking, how can I be of service to you? And I guarantee you, those two salespeople are out going to perform the cumulative results of two salespeople that are banging heads all the time.
Right.
And so those two salespeople have figured out there's accountability between them.
I've seen it happen in back offices too. I don't live on the front line very much with the salespeople or people that are actually talking to customers. I don't like people, so they leave me in the back office. But those peer-to-peer accountabilities within a department and even across departments where there are dependencies on, I'm relying on you and your work product for my work product and vice versa, that's real too.
Absolutely. And you know, that builds off of the number one problem that our research, and we do a lot of research, our research shows the number one problem is siloed communication. Well, why would there be siloed communication? Well, there's a lack of relationships. And if there's a lack of relationships, there's going to be a lack of accountability. There's also going to be a lack of teamwork. There's also going to be a lot of things that are going to flow in a negative way. But when the relationships are robust, people want to help each other. We want to see each other succeed individually, but then, of course, organizationally. If you and I are both thriving, the organization has to thrive.
Right. You speaking of research, I saw it come through my email feed yesterday. Y'all released some research white paper. Did that come out just yesterday, or did I just see it yesterday?
It came out. It was formally released yesterday.
Okay.
And this is the 2026 accountability and culture survey that we did. It's a 50-page PDF that has all the research that anybody who's interested in culture accountability needs to see. It's absolutely free. It's available very simply if you go to samsilverstein.com/research. You can download it. You don't have to put your email address in, nothing. You could just go to samsilverstein.com, and at the top there is a button for research. That'll take you there too. But this is a powerful document that's going to help any leader better understand what's going on inside their organization and help them spot things that they need to fix, take care of, and make sure they're on track for an amazing, high-performance, sustainable workplace culture.
So it came out recently enough that I haven't digested it fully. I did skim through it, and it looks like lots of good stuff in there. You want to mention a highlight or two of what stood out to you? Maybe something surprised you?
Something that surprised me. Well, you know, I don't get surprised that easily. Or
a highlight of any sort.
Well, here's the thing. What was very interesting when we did the research was that across the board, 70% of employees say that excuses hurt their company's performance. 70% of the people respondents said excuses hurt their organization's performance. And that's, I mean, you know, so getting rid of those excuses are important. 45% of employees would accept lower salary to work at a company with great culture. 45. So nearly half your workplace, if you don't have a great culture, half your workplace is willing to go someplace else at a lower salary.
Yeah,
so if you're trying to attract and retain the best people, you know, if you don't have a great culture, you're swimming upstream. As a matter of fact, it's possible. The other thing that was interesting is that we look a lot at organizational values, and in organizations that had poor culture, only 43.4% of the people said they were living the values. But in strong cultures, great cultures, 89.3% of the people said they were living the values. So clearly there was a great set of values, and we define what that is, and they're living the values. So values on the wall, values on your website, values in a book don't mean a thing. It's what people are actually doing.
Yeah, agreed. And that, of course, fits right in with accountability as a core value and stewardship as a mindset to how all of us do our work. And I would encourage listeners, go check it out. There's lots of insights in there. I want to go back, though, to another thing you said along the way. You were talking about in the relational commitments, it's something I take on, and the fact that I'm taking it on doesn't have to be spoken. It can be unspoken. Did I capture that right?
Absolutely.
Do you ever see any times where there's a benefit to actually articulating with the other people in the relationship or around the relationship what's going on, even if I don't have to speak about it?
Well, I think when it comes to these relational commitments, and we define 10 of them, they're in the book no matter what. They're in the book, The Accountability Advantage, which really steps this all out. Um, I don't think you. No, look, my father must have told me 57,132 times, actions speak louder than words. You know what I believe just by following me around. And if I'm looking out for you, if I'm trying to help you grow and develop you as an individual, you know that. I don't need to tell you that. As a matter of fact, I think it's stronger when you don't tell them that. If I always tell the truth, you know that. I don't need to tell you that. I don't trust people that tell me all the time that they tell the truth. Why would they tell me that? All they have to do is do it. If I'm committed to a good reputation, you know that by my actions, by the decisions that I make. If I stand by you when all hell breaks loose, you have evidence of that. Either I did something when you were in times of trouble, or you saw me have someone else's back when they were in times of trouble. And so that's why I said these are taken on. They're not the type of commitments like, I'll get the report done, I'll clean this up. That's transactional. That's not what I'm talking about. It's relational. And in that situation, actions always speak louder than words.
Yeah, I get that. I experienced that dynamic of, if I'm saying it to you and I'm not living it out in my relationship with you, there's hypocrisy and inauthenticity
Absolutely.
all over that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can see some places, Sam, where maybe not in the relationship, but when we're talking about the values and the culture more broadly, of us articulating, here's why these are important, where we talk about them, but it's not necessarily me coming to you and saying, I'm going to be an honest person with you. And then that makes you wonder, why are you even having to tell me that?
Exactly. No, we need to be talking about the values all the time. Everyone needs to know they're important to us, the leaders. They need to know what they are. They need to know how to step them out. Every time we make a decision, we need to explain how we made that decision and how it was supported by this value or this value or this value. That's the culture. We need to be using the C word, culture, all the time. Agreed. I totally agree. It's these commitments between people that are relational that they need to see them in action.
Yeah, I love that. Can we pivot a little bit?
I love that word. Let's do it.
You brought it up earlier, but I want to actually go there now. You talked about how this is important. Accountability is vital as an aspect of stewardship. Tell me what stewardship means to you and why accountability is such a vital part of that.
You know, I gave you the example before. I invested my mother's money.
I wondered if you'd bring that instance back up. That's a powerful one. Carry on.
And think of it this way. You know, I invest my money and I make a decision and we're going to do this and it works or it doesn't. And if I lose some money, like you, like anyone, I'm not a happy guy. You know, I mean, nobody wants to take on a loss in their investments, but that could not happen with my mother's money. That was not an option.
Right. Yeah.
I was a steward of her resources. I was responsible for that. I didn't own it. I was honored with the privilege of taking care of it on her behalf. That raises everything up to a higher level. And when leaders realize that that's what they are, they're the stewards of the safety and the success of the people that they lead. And only true leaders, in my opinion, Eric, take that on and recognize that and realize that and communicate with people in such a way. These are the people that don't say stupid things like, well, this isn't personal, this is business. I mean, that's ridiculous. Every conversation between two human beings is personal.
Right.
And so stewardship is something that it's powerful. It's an easy word to say. It's not easy to always step it out.
Yes. It's a good way to put that. It's a high bar for us to live up to. And the example you use in the example of your mom and her finances, that one, that resonates with me, and two, it makes it super practical. And I want to riff on that just for a minute because you made this point of I'm not owning this. I'm held to a higher standard because I am a steward of what somebody else owns. I've seen sometimes where people say, think like an owner. And I believe in that. There's an aspect of that that makes a whole lot of sense. I've worked now for well, hang on. I worked for two companies that were employee stock ownership plans, and so the employees had a piece of the stake. And there's a sense
That's a different story.
right. It's helpful where I think like an owner, but I really think stewardship is a higher level. I can abuse things that I own. I can fail to take good care of them. The standard of an owner is not always the highest standard of care, but as a steward, I don't have the option of neglecting or failing to take good care of. As your mom's steward, there was an expectation that you as a fiduciary, you had to put her interest really high. Go ahead. You wanted to talk some about the owner piece.
Well, and I just, I, you know, when you have an organization where the employees own a piece of it, no matter how much, then the conversation can be we as owners.
Yes.
First of all, even in that situation, I would never say act as an owner because to me that's a demeaning, that's like saying you're not acting right, start acting right. If I'm not acting right, then come in and tell me what I'm doing wrong and help me correct my behavior. And if I don't, then allow me to go someplace where that behavior is acceptable, which means out the door.
For the competitor, preferably.
Exactly, of course. And what I see this a lot with organizations where the leaders will say act like owners, but they're not owners, which to me is a slap in the face. And well, so how am I supposed to act like you act like an owner? Like I get that big office, I get that parking spot with my name on it that says reserved, I get the expensive car. I mean, if you want me to act like an owner, then treat me like an owner. And so to me, those are not leaders they're certainly not servant leaders. They don't see their people right, and they think their people are the cause of the problems. When the reality is, my guess is the leader's the cause of the problem in that situation.
Makes sense to me. I'd like to, if I could, unless there's anything else you want to add on the stewardship topic. I had two quotes I wanted to point to out of your recent book that you and Allison did and get you to reflect on those.
Love it.
All right?
Absolutely.
To give the group a sense of what's in the book, again, the title is Be Astonishing. The subtitle is How to Transform Ordinary Influence into Lasting Significance. And some of these chapter titles give you a flavor for it. Outwork your ordinary, forge your resilience, live your authenticity, love people, the little things. Yep, those all resonated with me. So here are two things out of the chapter on outwork your ordinary. Let me read this, page 60. To be astonishing doesn't always mean being the loudest voice or holding the highest title. Sometimes it means seeing beyond what's expected and showing up when it matters most. Outwork your ordinary means refusing to let your role define your reach. It's the daily decision to bring your full humanity to the work, no matter what that work is. You've got about 4 hours worth of material stuck in that one paragraph. Do you want to tease an item or two out of that? And I've got maybe one more quote.
Well, you don't need to have a title to have an impact. You can have an impact by showing up. And outwork your ordinary is going beyond what most people are willing to do.
Yeah.
There are a lot of stories and a lot of great stories in this book.
Agreed.
And here's the problem we had with the book. The problem we had with the book was as we found astonishing people and we put where we place their stories, we realized we could have placed their stories in any of the chapters
Right.
because there was because they embodied all 6 characteristics that we were sharing about
Yep.
astonishing people. And so this is certainly one of those chapters. And my daughter, Allison, my co-author, is a practicing licensed pediatrician. She's actually board certified in palliative care. And so this is what she does. And she shared a story about, if this is her story, this is one of the stories that moves me to no end, but she shared a story about there was a child that coded in the hospital. And so the team rushes in to resuscitate and, try and save the life of this child. And the mother was not there at that moment. You can only stay in the room so much. Every now and then you got to go to the bathroom. Every now and then you got to go get some food and nourishment. You have to take care of yourself. And their mother had walked out of the room, and she walked back in when this was going on. Now, there was an environmental services worker in that room. And that's the person that when this all went down, and that's the person who's literally just cleaning up the room, just keeping it sanitary, keeping it clean. She stopped what she was doing and she stood there and waited for the mother. And when the mother came in, she walked over to the mother and put her arm around the mother and held on to her while the doctors were doing what they were doing. This was not in this woman's job description. This had nothing to do with why she was being paid every day, but it had everything to do with the human being, the astonishing human being that she is, how she showed up for somebody. Now, that to me is absolutely amazing. And so that's the example. It doesn't matter what your title is. Be there, take care of somebody. Yeah.
I remember encountering that story as I read through, and that is powerful. Who told her at employee orientation that she'd have that opportunity to touch somebody's life in a super practical, in the moment way? That's definitely outside her ordinary of the job description.
Exactly. And here's a situation where she was there for this mother. She didn't do, at the same time, being there for someone like that is an honor. It's a privilege.
Yes, it is.
And it comes back. It comes back to you. And so she didn't do that for any personal gain, but in that moment, she also experienced something that was very powerful. And I don't know, it's just very moving to see someone that will step up like that.
And just to tell the listeners, the book is full of those kind of stories. So let me go to one more quote, Sam, and then we'll wrap up with this.
Okay.
This is in the same chapter on Outworking the Ordinary. Let me find it. Be transparent about the hidden work behind your own success to normalize the level of dedication it takes to achieve excellence. Thought that was interesting. Normalizing, being transparent about the hidden work behind how I got success to normalize the level of dedication required to achieve excellence. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, and I think that, goes towards, I don't remember what came right before that in the book that it was referencing back to, quite frankly, but it's there's nothing wrong with sharing what you do on someone's behalf and letting, and just being transparent of the steps that you're going through. I think we need to know more. We need to be able to walk in each other's steps. I will tell you this, in all the research that we did and all the people that we talked to and interviewed, we discovered 2 things without a doubt. One, there was no one that we felt that was astonishing that would have agreed with us. Nobody said they were astonishing. Nobody felt they were astonishing. When we told them, when we said those words, we just see you as astonishing. No, I'm not. This is just what I do. This is, and the other thing that we saw was astonishing people are always trying to find a new way, better way to do something. They're always looking to grow. They're always looking to improve. And so whether we're looking at this individually or for our organization, it's like, what makes this organization astonishing? It's the same principles. An astonishing organization is filled with astonishing people. And we're all trying to get better individually, but collectively we're trying to create a better place for everyone. And being open and transparent about that and having those conversations and being there to help each other, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Well, we're going to start to wind it down now. One of the things I think is fascinating, Sam, is you keep coming back to people. People and their effects on people. You talked about it when you talked about stewardship. You talked about it here with that example of the environmental services person. You talked about it in your definition of accountability. It's about people. Any comments you want to add before I wind us up?
It is about people. I think it's real easy for a leader to say, we have great people. I couldn't do this without my people. I hear this a lot. And that's nice. But my question is it rhetoric, or do your actions tell me that's what you really believe?
Yep.
I hear it a lot more than I see it. And so that goes back to whether or not your actions convey that because you really believe that in your heart. How can I serve this person? How can I be there for them? Not see them as a mechanism or a way to make you more money. Not thinking, well, I pay them to do this job. They better do a good job. No, they're there just like you're there. We're all on a journey. What are you doing as a leader to help make sure the people you lead are safe and successful? Because I guarantee you, if you as a leader look out for those two things, you're being a steward, you're building a relationship, and you're building an organization where accountability will thrive.
Love it. Sam, thanks so much again for taking time for this conversation. There's definitely lots here for all of us as steward leaders to be thinking about. Thanks so much for making time for this.
My pleasure. Anytime, Eric.
Thanks for listening to Steward Leaders. If this conversation was helpful, you can find more episodes and additional resources at stewardleaderspodcast.com. Leadership is temporary. Stewardship is about forever.